On the southern edge of Tehran, there's a mountain no tourist will ever climb. It isn't made of stone, but of waste. Not a peak of pride, but a pile of what this city chooses to discard. Plastic, metal, broken things, and sometimes people. At its base, lives are spent in silence. Women, mothers, daughters, grandmothers bend over scraps not just to survive, but to disappear. This isn't just a garbage mountain. It's a monument to poverty, a graveyard of forgotten rights. And still they stay. Not because they want to, but because the world outside offers no way out. This is not just about a landfill. This is about what gets buried when a woman has no voice. Number 1. Real life in Aradkouh. Trash keeps arriving. Truck after truck, ton after ton. It never stops. Aradkouh landfill, also known as Aradkouh landfill, located nearly 40 kilometers south of the capital. This is the end point of everything the city no longer wants. More than 8,000 tons of garbage are dumped here every single day. Down at the base of this landfill, long before sunrise, women start moving. Their silhouettes blend into smoke and steam. Some cover their faces with scarves. Others don't bother anymore. Each woman knows what to look for. Bottles, wire, aluminum, and sometimes even food. They reach deep into black plastic bags with bare hands, pulling out things Tehran no longer wants, hoping some part of it can be sold. They don't have titles. They're not called waste pickers, employees, or workers. They're just the women from down there. Only pieces of scrap traded for cash, barely enough to eat. By midday, the stench is unbearable, so is the heat. But they stay. Because the only thing worse than sorting garbage all day is not having garbage to sort. Some sleep nearby in makeshift tents. Others walk long distances to rooms with no water, no electricity. Only walls made of leftover plastic sheeting and hope. These women were never given options, never invited to dream. Their lives are lived transaction by transaction, a handful of recyclables for a piece of bread, a day of labor for a place to sleep. And no matter how hard they work, they are still seen as a burden. Poverty has a smell. In Aradkouh, it wears the face of a woman. Number 2. Poverty of opportunity. But poverty in Aradkouh isn't just about digging through garbage to survive. It's about being trapped, and there's no way out, especially for women. In Iran, women make up less than 30% of the official workforce. That number drops even lower in poor outer districts like Aradkouh. It's noteworthy that women here don't have degrees. They've never had stable jobs or social protections. They do what they can. Sorting waste, cleaning homes, selling scraps often for cash so small. It can't even cover a full week's groceries. But even when they try to find better work, the law itself stands in their way. Iranian labor laws ban women from holding certain jobs. They can't become judges. They are barred from high-level government roles. And even in fields where women are legally allowed to work, there are no laws against gender discrimination at the workplace, making it nearly impossible for them to be promoted or treated equally. Worse still, under Article 1117 of Iran's Civil Code, a husband can legally prevent his wife from working altogether if he believes her job goes against family values or might harm his reputation. The result is a cycle of endurance. These women work long hours without contracts or insurance. If their child falls ill, they have to choose between buying medicine or feeding the family. And most of the time, they choose to endure. Because here getting sick is less terrifying than losing a day's income. Iran currently ranks 143rd out of 146 countries in the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report for 2024. The World Bank reports that even though women make up over 60% of Iran's university graduates, only 14% enter the workforce. Those who do often face harassment, glass ceilings, and widespread discrimination, which only deepens their financial dependence on men. But this is only part of their story. Stay with us, because what comes next is even harder to look away from. Number 3. Poverty of living place. Poverty doesn't end when the workday does. In Aradkouh, it follows these women home, or what counts as home. Many live in makeshift shelters just beyond the landfill's gates. Walls made from rusted metal sheets. Roofs patched with tarps, cardboard, or anything the wind hasn't torn away. And still they stay. Because rent in the city is out of reach. Because when you earn just enough for food, a roof becomes optional. Inside these homes, the air is thick with smoke from burning trash, from makeshift stoves, from hopelessness. Children sleep beside garbage. Some develop skin infections. Some cough for months. But no one goes to the doctor. Without official employment, these women have no health insurance. Even public hospitals already overwhelmed require documentation they don't have. So they work through fever. They wrap wounds with old cloth. They take painkillers when they can afford them, or they wait hoping the pain will pass on its own. But poverty doesn't come alone. It brings with it the weight of gender inequality and the quiet violence of being told their life matters less. For these women, living among garbage isn't the worst part. It's knowing they're treated like they belong there. Number 4. The poverty of freedom. To be born a girl in Iran is to be measured before you're even heard. And in places like Karizak, that judgment comes early and never leaves. By law, girls as young as 7 must wear a headscarf in public. Not as a choice, not as a belief, but as a duty imposed before they even understand what it means. From childhood, they're taught that their bodies are a source of shame, that their voices must soften, their laughter must be quiet, their freedom must shrink to fit the expectations of others. Even in the outskirts, even beside a landfill, the rules follow them. Among the stench of rotting waste and the scrape of metal, a loose scarf can still mean punishment. Because poverty doesn't exempt them from obedience. It makes their compliance invisible, expected, and demanded. Across the country, Iran's so-called morality police uphold dress code laws through harassment, detention, and sometimes violence. On September 2022, Mahsa Jina Amini, a 22-year-old woman, was arrested for allegedly violating hijab rules. 3 days later, she died in custody. Her death sparked the women life freedom protests that spread across Iran, until they were brutally suppressed. More than 500 people were killed. Tens of thousands were arrested. But beyond fabric and modesty lies something more dangerous. The law. Under Iran's criminal code, justice is not equal. A woman's testimony counts for half of a man's. In courtrooms, her word isn't just doubted, it's discounted. If she is assaulted, she must prove her innocence. If she speaks out, she risks being labeled dishonorable, immoral, or unstable. So what happens when she doesn't just lack resources, but also legal worth? Because in Karizak and across Iran, to be a woman means learning to survive quietly. Not just among trash, but within rules that were never written for her. And maybe that's the cruelest part, that even in the filth, even in the dark, she still has to stay in line. Number 5. Poverty of love. Some poverty is not in the wallet, they live in the quiet places where love should be. In Iran, to be a wife, a mother, a daughter is to know that even your most personal choices can be taken from you. Marriage doesn't always begin with love. Girls as young as 13, sometimes even younger, are married off with nothing more than a father's approval and a judge's signature. From winter 2021 to winter 2022, Iran registered over 27,000 marriages involving girls under 15, and more than 1,000 births in that same age group. In most countries, this would be called child abuse. Here it is called legal. And for those who survive these early marriages, happiness is still not guaranteed, or even theirs to keep. Under Iranian law, a man can divorce his wife with a word. But a woman must go to court. She must prove harm, face shame, and risk losing everything: her home, her child, her voice. He and his family said I couldn't leave. I hired a lawyer. They sent me to counseling where I had to sit through shameful, humiliating comments. It was unbearable. I wanted to escape the humiliation of that marriage. But I ended up walking into another kind of humiliation. This section is for interview. Even when a woman finds the strength to walk away, the system often finds a way to pull her back in. Because after divorce, custody doesn't go to her. The law prefers the father. The courts trust the man. And the mother, no matter her love, is left out. This isn't just a loss of legal rights. It's a poverty of happiness, a poverty of safety, a poverty of hope. Because when the right to love freely, to leave safely, and to raise your child is not yours to hold, what kind of future is left to imagine? Number 6. Poverty of rights. Have you ever thought about what it means to be poor in your dreams? Not in your wallet, not in your home, but in the simple act of imagining a future and being told you can't. In Iran, for many women, poverty doesn't just limit what they have, it limits what they're allowed to want. From the day they're born, girls grow up under male guardianship. Even after turning 18, many still can't make decisions for themselves. If unmarried, they remain under the legal control of their fathers or male relatives. If married, that control is handed to their husbands, who hold not just emotional power, but legal rights over their lives. Even the right to move to travel is not theirs. By law, a single woman over 18 still needs her father's permission to travel abroad. A married woman cannot apply for renew or even use a passport without her husband's written consent. And at any time, that consent can be taken away. In 2015, Nilufar Ardalan, captain of Iran's national women's futsal team, was barred from competing internationally. Not by injury, not by policy, but because her husband refused to renew her passport. 2 years later, Zahra Namadi, a Paralympic gold medalist, was denied the chance to compete overseas after filing for divorce. Her husband intervened, contacting the passport office to block her from leaving. If even the most accomplished women like athletes champions can be stopped at a signature, then what chance does a girl in Karizak have? What chance does a woman living beside a landfill have to imagine something beyond that hill of waste? It's not that women stop dreaming. It's that eventually they learn not to. Because when your freedom depends on permission, your passion begins to decay. Number 7. Poverty of peace. Have you ever been afraid of the future? Not because you don't dream, but because the world keeps taking that dream away. This too is a kind of poverty, the poverty of peace. This is not a place ravaged by bombs or visible destruction, but rather one where peace is defined by its absence, where daily life is marked by uncertainty, emotional fatigue, and the quiet erosion of safety. And it is women and children who feel this absence most deeply. Though Tehran lies far from any active front line, the tension of regional politics especially, the long-standing strain between Iran and Israel seeps silently into everyday life. Without dwelling on complex conflicts, it is clear that sanctions, economic instability, and the constant fear of what might come next have created an atmosphere where peace feels fragile and incomplete. Women at the core of both family and society are often left to carry this burden. Many navigate rising living costs and shrinking job opportunities, all while trying to create a sense of normalcy and hope for their children. For mothers, peace is more than the absence of war. It is the freedom to raise their children without fear, to access education and health care, and to build a future that feels safe. When playgrounds are overshadowed by worry and futures feel uncertain, their emotional and mental growth is at risk. The poverty of peace takes away childhood confidence and the right to grow up free from fear. However, amid the winding streets of Tehran, hope remains. It lives in a mother's resilience, in a child's laughter that still rises, and in the quiet strength of a community that continues to believe in something better. Because in the end, the people of Tehran are not only longing for peace, they are longing for a peace that protects, that empowers, and that restores dignity. Number 8. Information poverty. In Aradkouh, women live and work in plain sight. But on paper, many of them do not exist. Without ID cards, birth certificates, or permanent addresses, they're cut off from basic rights. Not by violence, but by paperwork. They're not listed in official censuses. They're not included in employment statistics. And when policy is made, it's never made with them in mind. That means no access to public health care, no access to legal aid, no access to formal housing or government support. If a woman is injured on the job, she cannot claim insurance because she was never formally hired. If she's harassed, there's nowhere to report it because there's no file with her name on it. If her child is born, she may not even be able to register the birth. This isn't just about poverty, it's about erasure. Because when you're not counted, your problems don't count either. No one tracks their progress. No one updates their stories. No one follows up. For most people, a name on a record is proof they exist. But for women in Aradkouh, even that feels too far away to dream of. There are no applications to fill out, no lines to stand in, no forms to sign because people doesn't even recognize that they're there. And slowly over time, they stop expecting to be seen at all. Being undocumented means being untouchable, unprotected, and unheard. The trash they sort is cataloged by weight, by category, by value. Everything is measured, except them. Number 9. Why are they still staying? Sometimes the hardest part to understand isn't how they survive here. It's why they stay. From the outside, it seems unbearable. A landfill, the stench, the danger, the isolation. But for many women in Karizak, this place is not a mistake. It's the only option they have left. Some were abandoned by their husbands. Some fled violence only to find no refuge waiting. In Iran, divorce can cost a woman more than her marriage. It can cost her children. As mentioned above, under the law, custody often defaults to the father or to a male relative. So even when the relationship becomes unbearable, many women stay. And when they leave, they're often left with nothing. But survival isn't just about escaping violence. It's about what happens next. Without family support, without legal protection, and without income, starting over is not an option for most. Shelters are few and social services limited. Renting a home as a single woman, especially without documentation, is nearly impossible. Then comes the shame. In a society where women are often blamed for their own suffering, leaving a marriage or becoming a single mother invites judgment, not help. Many of these women simply don't want to explain themselves again. Not to a landlord, not to a boss, not to a court. They adapt to silence and call it survival. They no longer have to explain why they're alone. Why didn't they leave sooner? Why are they still holding on? And that might be the saddest part of all. Not that they stay, but that they've come to believe this is where they were meant to be. FILTH. Number 10. There is still hope. Even in places where everything seems broken, something quietly endures. In Aradkouh, between rusted metal and piles of discarded things, small moments of dignity still rise. A mobile clinic visits once a week, offering basic checkups and bandages for those who can't afford anything else. A local volunteer group brings hot meals every few days. And in a cramped storage shed, turned classroom children learn to write their names some for the first time. Women share what little they have. Splitting bread, lending clothes, staying close when someone is harassed or falls ill. In a place where help is rare, they become each other's safety net. They have no wealth, no power, often not even documents, but they still have hope. And they still carry the quiet belief that survival can mean more than just getting through the day. Because even at the bottom of society, even beside mountains of trash, many refuse to lose what makes them human. And they still carry the quiet belief that survival can mean more than just getting through the day. Because even at the bottom of society, even beside mountains of trash, many refuse to lose what makes them human. Aradkouh is not a place that appears on travel guides. No tour bus comes this far. No postcards are printed with its hills of waste. And it holds one of the most honest portraits of human resilience anywhere in Iran. Here, poverty is not just a number, it's a landscape. A quiet inheritance passed from mother to daughter, sealed in silence, wrapped in struggle. And in the middle of this life, refuses to end. Women carry on. They build, they teach, they nurture. Even when no one is watching. Even when no one believes they should still hope. They are not just surviving poverty. They are surviving the absence of recognition, of protection, of choice. And somehow, even under the weight of that, they manage to hold on to their dignity. Aradkouh doesn't just bury trash. It buries potential. It buries voices. But it also reveals something else that even in the most discarded places, humanity remains. So maybe it's time we look closer. Not just at landfills, but at the stories we bury with them. Because ignoring them won't make them disappear. But seeing them, truly seeing them, is where change begins. If you've stayed with us this far, thank you. There are more stories like this. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more journeys into the unseen corners of our world.